Hello and welcome to Fast Forward Newsline. My name is David Kattenberg. With us today is Susan Hubert to talk about food wastage, of which I gather there's lots and lots in the world today. Susan, thank you for joining us.
And thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Susan, this is astonishing that something on the order of 1.4 billion tons of food is thrown out into the garbage every year,
That's right, every year. So some of it is thrown out right at the beginning, actually, in the farms, that maybe there's a storm that does something to the rind of the oranges or something, so it doesn't look nice. And so it's thrown out even before it goes to the stores, because the farmers know that they can't sell it to the middle people because they won't sell it to the supermarkets.
So now let's just revisit these statistics. So 1.4 billion tons of food is thrown out every year. And what percentage of the total volume or mass of food production does this represent?
Worldwide, it's about 40%, but in the US, it's more like 50% of the food that's produced. And I presume that Canada would be about the same, about 50% as well. So it's a massive amount that's wasted. And meanwhile, 80 million people go to bed hungry every night.
So let's talk about why food is thrown away. And we're talking about fruits and vegetables.
That's right. Sometimes it's because it has some kind of small blemish, and sometimes it's just misshapen. Tomato that has something sticking out of it, but it's perfectly good, or a squash that doesn't look quite right. And so there's
or a carrot. We've all seen pictures of carrots on the internet that look really bizarre, and these don't typically end up in the supermarket.
That's right. They look like a pitchfork or something like that, but they taste perfectly fine. It's just that they don't measure up to the artificial standards of perfection that we've designed for ourselves.
So in the past, have grocery store chains and the middlemen told farmers in the field and mass producers out there to simply not send them fruits and vegetables that look strange? Or have there been historically guidelines on what kinds of fruit and vegetables the middle people and the grocery stores wants to receive?
So I was reading about some of that, and one story I heard was of a farmer who had some kind of vegetable, I think a cabbage, a load of cabbages or something like that, and the person who was coming to buy it sifted through all of the different cabbages until he found one that was bad or had some blemish on it and didn't buy any of them. So there are some horror stories that I've read about farmers having to throw out masses of food because of some small blemishes on a few of the pieces.
And I mean, we all know that those who travel, for example, potatoes, realize that potatoes come in all shapes and sizes, and some of them look really bizarre. And the same goes for tomatoes. I was just traveling in France and spied some marvelous tomatoes. These are, of course, I suppose a certain variety of tomatoes that are crenellated. I'm not quite sure what the word is, but they're not shaped perfectly round. They have a really strange shape. We don't see these in stores in North America.
Oh, no, I was reading actually that in France it's illegal for supermarkets to throw out unused food. They either have to sell it or give it away. So I think there they have much less of a sense of perfection in terms of the appearance of fruit. So you'd probably see that a lot more than here. But in North America, we still have that strange idea that pears have to be a certain shape and tomatoes have to be a certain shape when they're completely good inside and there's no problem with them.
And celery, tell me about celery, how farmers select their celery according to their length.
I've heard something that apparently certain supermarkets have a certain type of bag or a certain size of bag that the celery has to fit into. So I saw a documentary which included shots of some farmers or some celery pickers going through the fields, and with knives they would slice off the parts of the celery that didn't fit into the bag. So it's completely artificial. There's no reason why they couldn't have bigger bags. It's just that they had a certain manufacturer who made certain bags, and the celery had to fit that.
How much food gets thrown out by restaurants?
I think it's quite a bit, probably about the same amount as in the rest of of society, probably 40 to 50%. But a lot of it seems to be also things that if they have smaller portions, then people wouldn't throw out as much. And I think some restaurants are responding to that, putting smaller portions or having kids' portions and adult portions. And so they're trying, but it's still quite a waste sometimes.
Tell me about how some large grocery store chains in North America are changing their policies in response, I gather, to petitions.
In North America, it's been fairly slow. In Britain, there's Tesco, which has responded to the need for reducing food waste. But here in North America, there's a petition for Walmart to start selling what they call ugly fruit and vegetables. And I think they're starting to introduce a few things, potatoes and one or two other vegetables. But
back up. Tell me about Tesco.
That's right. That's a British chain. And a while ago, they introduced a line called Naturally Imperfect. So basically, they would take misshapen fruit and vegetables and sell that at a reduced price. So I think it's 30% less in terms of price from the regular fruit and vegetables, which is very good since the price of produce has gone up quite substantially in the past few years.
And it makes you laugh. Why should irregularly shaped fruit and vegetables cost less?
That's right.
It's wonderful that they do.
Well, that's right. It's a little bit of a strange thing since if you grow it in your own garden, then you naturally eat whatever comes out of there. But somehow when it comes from a store, you have to have perfect fruit and vegetables.
And Walmart. Walmart has received a petition to change the way it does things, and it's apparently doing something. Tell me about that.
Yes, it started with a few fruits and vegetables that it's now selling imperfect, and that was the result of a petition that went out to ask them to do that, and it came through change.org. So I don't know how many people signed it, but it was a very substantial number. And so they're starting on that. It will take a while before other chains pick that up. But also, I guess the various stores owned by the Loblaw company are starting to have the imperfect fruit and vegetables. So it started in Quebec and Ontario that they started introducing certain fruits and vegetables that would be sold even if they were imperfect. And they're expanding it to other provinces and some of the territories. And they're hoping to expand the kinds of fruit and vegetables as well. So even mushrooms, I don't personally buy mushrooms, but mushrooms and things like that will be sold even if they're imperfect. So it's a start at least.
This is an enormous challenge, I think, as much for consumers as it is for large food store chains, because so the story goes, food chains and other corporations and stores, they're responding to the tastes of consumers. So this must be a big challenge. As part of the challenge is to get people to be a little bit less exacting and demanding when it comes to the expectations about what their fruits and vegetables should look like. It's more important that they taste good.
Well, that's right. I find even after I became aware of this issue, when I go to the store, I still pick through the fruit and look at all sides and see if there are any bruises on the fruit, or make sure that the potato looks okay, doesn't have any black spots. But now that I'm more aware of it, maybe I'll do that less and just figure, especially if I can get the fruit for a little bit cheaper, then I don't feel that I'm wasting my money by buying a half-rotten peach or something.
It is kind of funny the way we go sifting through the fruits and vegetables looking for perfect specimens, isn't it?
That's right. When really, a lot of the time, especially if you're baking, then it doesn't really matter what it looks like. And if there are a few bruises, well, it's not the best, but at least it's edible, so then you can just cut out that part. And I do that with cheese regularly, since I don't eat a huge amount of cheese. So I shave off the moldy bits and then eat the rest of it. But somehow I think that fruit has to come perfect before I can buy it. But I'll have to change that.
Thank you so much, Susan, for joining us today.
And thank you very much as well. It was nice to talk with you.
My guest today has been Susan Hubert. You've been watching Fast Forward Newsline here at the Green Planet Monitor. Fast Forward Newsline is generously supported by the Government of Canada, the Social Justice Fund of Unifor, and the Community Radio Fund of Canada. Send us a note, send us a message, tell us what you think at greenplanetmonitor.net. My name is David Kattenberg. Join us again next week in this same box. Bye-bye.